Hey! Start the podcast with the fucking old Mexican scream. Yeah, there you go. Bit of Bruce.
There's one for the headphone wearers.
Episode number 18 there on the Jeff Fit podcast. I nearly said the Jeff Fit podcast. What we should call it.
And then Jeff
Fit. Imagine I started something called Jeff Fit and the only people that could join the program were people called Jeff. That's the best.
Oh, brilliant. Dave Gorman did that.
Dave.
Do you remember that? Yeah, he's an English comedian, and he did a show called My Name is Dave Gorman, where he flew around the world meeting people called Dave Gorman. Turned out it was a great bleeding show. Good play.
Anyway, on this episode of the Jeff Fit podcast, we're talking about addictions and vices with chefs who struggle with vices and addictions and bad habits, all of that good stuff. That's what we're going to be diving into here today. And I kind of had to start this whole podcast off, before we get any kind of techno babble mumbo jumbo. I suppose the inspiration for this podcast was my own kind of, me and Peter have obviously talked about this before, but in the past couple of weeks, I've noticed myself that I've slipped into some really bad habits that I used to have, some old bad habits. So I've been a stoner since I was about 18, 19. Love smoking weed, love smoking a joint. It was always my wind down after work. Do you know what I mean? It was always the thing when I came home at night, finished the service, fucking nothing better than rolling up a massive spliff and sticking on some tunes or sticking on a podcast or sticking something on. And like just being on the couch there, just fucking vegetating, you know what I mean? Comatosing slowly. And I derived a lot of pleasure from that. But over the course of a couple of years, it became such a constant. It became a thing for me where like I couldn't come home and not have that. You know what I mean? And then I think over the course of 4 to 5 years, it was every night. Like it was every fucking night without fail. Any service, and then on my days off, I'd be absolutely blitzkrieged. And it wasn't a problem. Like, you don't see it as a problem, which is what happens early on with any kind of addiction or any kind of, crutch, let's say. You don't really see it for what it is. And I noticed myself, like when I started Chef Fit, I had actually knocked it on the head completely. And there was periods before that in my PT career where I had knocked it on the head. Why? Because first off, when you're smoking every single night, you end up in this very strange place mentally, very, very strange place mentally, where your sleep cycles are so off. Like you're not smoking weed and drinking booze. It does something to your brain waves. Your brain waves change. I think it's like fucking beta and omega, something along those lines. I'm not a scientist, but something about your brain waves changes where you can't get into REM sleep. And that basically means yeah, you stop dreaming, you stop getting the restful sleep where you wake up and you feel good. Like every morning I'd wake up and it's like, oh man, not feeling motivated to get out of bed, lacking energy. Like I felt like I'd need to fucking jump up and down 10 times and do about 20 burpees before I felt normal again. Do you know what I mean? It was that kind of feeling.
Or smoking a joint and have a can of Red Bull.
That's it. That's to get yourself fucking going again.
Yeah, that's the chef wake up.
but literally, jokes aside, with PT, when I was doing it was about 2 years ago, it had gotten very bad, and I was a competitive athlete at the time. Like I was fucking competing in powerlifting. I was probably in the best physical condition I'd ever been in. Do you know what I mean? I was fucking strong as fuck, stronger than I am now, walking around with a six pack, all of that shit. And I was a stoner. Every night I would get fucking blitzed. But I noticed when I was coaching people that I started working at 6:30 in the morning. Like I'd have to be in the gym at 6:30 to coach. And I had to obviously I'm a fucking big presence of a person. So when I'm coaching people, like I'm fucking very loud and I'm very animated and all of that. So when I jump on the floor to take a group of 10 to 15 people for a warm up and I'm describing things, I noticed one morning that I woke up and I was stoned as fuck. I slept like shit. And I thought my blood sugars were all over the place. but I just felt off. Like I felt the joke that I couldn't look someone in the eye and talk to them. And I felt like my fucking head was just ringing. It was all over the place. And when I drove into work, I actually scratched off a car on the side of the road. One of the clients who'd parked outside the gym, I actually fucking hit the car as I was trying to turn the corner. Luckily, they were in the gym already, and luckily they didn't fucking see it. And it was just a little scrape. I was fucking puke central walking into the fucking gym. So I take the warm up. I take my 3 or 4 classes. I used to personal train 3 or 4 people at the same fucking time. It's head like it was at like the highest level. It was fucking tough, and my head was up my hole. I was trying to organize programs, get the fucking bars set up, know how I was going to coach them in what sequence, all of that shit. And it was the worst session I've ever had. And that was a moment for me where it really caught up with me. I was like, man, what the fuck? I can't do it. Like, that was the weed. I definitely need to fucking not do that. So I cut it for a while. And I stopped for like 6 months. And I felt great. And it was the first time in years that I'd stopped. And I remember walking down the road to work one day. And I had my shoulders back, my chest out, my fucking eyes were looking forward. You know what I mean? And I for the first time in years, I was scanning. I was like looking at shit without feeling like introverted or, vulnerable. I was like, no, I could look people in the eye. I'm fucking sober as fuck. I don't really care. I'm Cameron.
Did you ever find yourself making excuses for the weed?
Yeah, 110%.
Yeah, big time, man. Big time.
That was
I stopped smoking about 4 years ago, but I was a wake and bake stoner,
Yeah.
I'd have one ready. I'd roll 2 going to bed, smoke one, keep one for when I wake up in the morning.
Jesus, man. Nice.
Yeah. Big time. And then, if something happened, like, people, everybody knew that I did that. And if something fucked up because of that, like if I forgot something or something, and you go, that's because of that. I'd be, no, that's not that. I'm just tired. Like, you know what I mean? You'd always make excuses.
But that was I got
make excuses for the weed, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I remember the people, the fucking crew and work at the time. We had a meeting and I had talked about, because we used to reflect on our sessions. Like I used to reflect on how when I would coach people, like a chef would do a service, I would write down how that went. And I'd write down who I coached, what the session was, what went well, what didn't go well. And then I reflected on what I needed to do the next time. I remember saying in the meeting that it's like, yeah, I just feel like I'm not 100% there. Like I'm not concentrating 100%. It's like, do you not think that's something to do with fucking what you're doing outside of work? And I was like, nah, I don't think it is. And
I always smoke weed, and I don't always fuck it up.
Yeah,
exactly. That's not it. It can't be that, because yesterday was perfect and I was more stoned than today.
Yeah, and that's classic fucking bollocksology.
Stoner bollocksology, yeah.
You don't notice it until you fucking come out of it. So as I was saying there, it's like I felt this feeling after I became sober for a couple of days and I kicked the habit, which was very difficult. And I was like, Jesus, man, like I feel fucking good again. I feel, you know what I mean? My conversation skills were different, all of those things. Then after a while, I fell back into the fucking old habits, which is with the past 2 or 3 months. I fell back into the habit. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like I don't hate weed. Like I love smoking a joint, but it's grand when it's a Saturday or a Sunday when I don't have anything to wake up for the next day. And it's just, I'm sleeping in and I'm spending time with my missus, or it's with family or whatever. And it's like, that's fine. But when it starts becoming a nightly thing, like it used to be where I needed it to wind down, that's when it starts to become a problem. So I had to face myself in the mirror today and go, listen, you've got a problem. You know what I mean? You've got to sort your shit out, because if I can't go like a couple of weeks without doing it, then something like I can't do it ever, because that's a full blown addiction. You know what I mean? And we can lie to ourselves and say it's not, but it is an addiction. You know what I mean? I know what it's like. Like I know what it was like to fucking smoke cigarettes. I know what that fucking shit was like. Giving up when you don't see it creeping in until it's fucking too late. And then that's what you're doing, and you lie to yourself and you fucking make excuses and all of this shit. So for me, I've stopped making the excuse and I've stopped lying to myself, and I've said, nah, fuck it. Like this needs to change. I'm going to do this now. I'm going to go sober, because I feel it's affecting me. Not in a massive way, but in very small ways, like regular enjoyment of waking up in the morning and feeling energized and ready to go. That's not a feeling I've had for the past 2 or 3 months. I've been waking up and it's like, right, You know what I mean? And it's like I have to get up and I have to fucking go to the gym and train. And showing up feels like a chore when it shouldn't feel like a chore. I've got a lot to feel grateful. I've got a lot to be grateful for. I have a massive amount to be grateful for. My life is way better than it was before. You know, I have a lot more freedom in my life now than I used to. When I used to work, whether that was in restaurants or I used to work in fucking, you know, I used to work in restaurants or I used to work as a PT or I was coaching or I was teaching courses. I never had mornings. I never, ever had a morning free. Like it was always, I had to get up and I have to get ready to go to work. But I never had this feeling of, no, I have my routine and I like having my routine. Now I do have a routine in the morning. And it's like I'm waking up and I'm almost dreading that. And it's like, nah, like that's fucking bullshit. That is bullshit, pal. You should not be letting that happen to yourself, because I do understand that I have a lot to be grateful for. So for me, that's my current trend, is like I'm kicking that and I'm fucking breaking that habit and I'm facing myself and it's going, nah, this is something you've been hiding from. So you need to fucking sort it out. And that's kind of that's the thing that I want to talk about here is that we all have a vice. We all have something, you know, whether we don't have it anymore, or we've had it at some point in our life, we still have it. We all have something that we rely on. You know, a vice or a fucking crutch, whether it's booze, whether it's weed, whether it's cigarettes, maybe it's cocaine, maybe it's, you know what I mean, whatever. Maybe it's, for some people, it's fucking, you know, it could be porn, it could be whatever the fuck. They're all things that you can use as a crutch or an addiction, or you get stuck with it. And what I want to break down here is really what you need to do to fix this, and understanding a bit more about your habits and how to change your habits, you know, how to change your habits. So as a preface, like 45% of our day is automatic. 45 approximately. It's about 40 to 45% of our day. So that means our brain puts nearly half of our day on autopilot. Like your actions when you wake up, going throughout your day, coming home at night. A lot of this shit is automatic. For me, coming home and rolling a joint was automatic. You know, it's just, that was my ritual. I come home from work, I sit down on the couch, I get the fucking little tin box out and I start fucking rolling and I put on a podcast. That's the process. Repeat, repeat, repeat until it becomes so ingrained that it's difficult to break that. So 45% of our day is habitual. Now, when it comes to changing your life, you need to be able to change what you do automatically. You need to be able to change your habits. And here's a fact for you. You can't permanently break a habit. You can't permanently break it. You can only change the behavior in a habit. So I'll break this down. Like, let's say you have 3 parts. You have a cue, you have your behavior, and you get the reward from that behavior. So your cue. For me, I didn't crave a joint at any other part of the day other than when I came home, I sat on a couch and I put on a podcast. So therefore, I'd see fucking Joe Rogan pop up on my screen, and that's my cue. You know, it's like, cool, well, fucking, like I've always done this, so I'm just gonna, that's, and then when I get that cue, right, and I would see the podcast pop up on the screen and I'm sitting on the couch, my brain craves the reward. So my brain starts craving that fucking like, do you know what I mean? That's the feeling I'm chasing now. What's in between those two is your behavior. So sit on the couch, watch the podcast, get the reward craving, and now I smoke the joint to get that reward. So the only thing that you can actually change is the behavior. So for me, I had to move to a vape, you know? I had to move to a vape for a couple of days and it helped. And it eventually led me to be able to fucking change that. Right now, I'm just going
to get away from the tobacco, like.
Yeah, just get away from that ritual in general. Do you know what I mean? And just not get trapped into that. But yeah, it's like this tobacco and the weed and that ritual of having the joint there. So it's very difficult to go with nothing at all, cold turkey, but replacing it with something that's not as bad is you know what I mean? That will do something. It could be fucking have a cup of herbal tea, you know? It could be any kind of behavior that's positive. See, the thing you need to change right now is you've built a habit of really negative behavior. So you need to change the behavior to a good thing. So let's say you can't change the cue, you're always going to come home and you'll probably watch that photo. You'll probably stick on the screen. Your brain will always crave something in those moments. So you need to change what it craves. If I come home and instead of smoking a joint, I smoke a vape for fucking 2 weeks, slowly but surely my brain starts to crave the vape. You know, if I replaced that with tea, if I was drinking booze, let's say, and I was able to change the booze for a cup of herbal tea, eventually my brain starts to crave the herbal tea. It's going to be very difficult initially to do that, but again, you will get to a point where you'll crave a better thing, which is a very, very positive. So you need to identify what vice you have and what is that vice doing to you, you know? What was your big one, Peter? Like, what did you feel throughout your years when you were at the fucking height of your powers, you know, chef-wise, and you were working mental fucking hours and all of that? What was your vice and what was the process?
If I wasn't 2 hours away from a spliff, I was a wanker. End of story. That was absolutely it. If
Sorry.
It's like this was in work, this was at home, this was everywhere. This is, if you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours away from spliff, or else I'm a prick. I tell you, this is one that was.
I thought you were about to say. I had to double check there. I thought you said I'm a wanker, as if I'm a chronic masturbator.
No, I meant like I turned into a prick. It's like, oh, I haven't had a split. When I'm a spliff, my dick can be up all night texting his mates.
Got to punish his own meat there because he can't get close to a fucking split.
No, here. Do you know what? Actually, right? There was one place I was working in, right? And on Saturday nights, you know, there was me, there was one other chef, a kitchen porter, one waiter, and one cocktail mixologist, fucking hipster, right? And on Saturday night, when the last main course went, there's a tiny little Thai restaurant, right? We all had a little tiny bump of speed, right?
Ooh.
Just a little bump, you know.
A little bump, yeah.
Just a little bump, and it was there. It was in the cloakroom. There was a little box. You open it up, and it was always there. And it was a little communal bag of speed, right? And then that kind of ritual, right? Without anybody knowing, because, you know, at Saturday night, that place is closed on the Sundays and Mondays anyway. So Saturday night, you know, we're going to be getting lit anyway.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like, oh, Saturday night, oh, last main's away, lads. You know what that means, you know? The fucking queue for the cloakroom. And then there was a week where I went in and we didn't have any. And I was like, what? And I got all pissed off, right? For fuck's sake. And I was like, can your man that now brings in, I was like, boy, like that, boy. He goes, oh, I haven't got any. And I was like, so what, it's on the way or what, right? And what ended up was that it came back the following week, and I was like, shit, I better not. After seeing where I was like last week without it, I said, I better not.
Yeah.
And I actually left that place a couple of weeks later.
Mad.
Yeah.
Fucking hell, man! On the speed. I've never done speed. What the fuck is that's you're just fucking.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Flying.
That's great. Yeah, it's great. No, it just tunes you in, you know. Yeah, it was great. It was great for the leaving cert as well. Big time. But yeah, I ended up leaving that restaurant, and you know, it was because of that. Because when they got it back in, then the following week he had it back. He's like, I have some there, and I was like, no, I'm not going to, man. Fucking hell. He's like, why not? So you saw me last week. I was turned into a prick just because you didn't have it.
Well, that's another.
Like, oh, yeah. And then he was like, right, yeah, no problem. And then they were doing it, and I was like, fucking love a bit of that now.
Yeah.
And then I was like, do you know what? That means you're a speedhead. So get the fuck out of there.
It's fucking slippery slope, man. It's slippery slope. You feel like even at times where, like, with the heavier stuff, like if it's fucking bag or whatever, Like, anytime, especially in my past, you know, you kind of get that feeling or that inkling. It's like, fuck. Like, I've had a feeling sometimes where it's like, I've been out on a session. It's like, Jesus, you imagine you were doing that regularly, spending your fucking all
Every
that
penny.
all that shit, you know, on bag. And I'm sure there's probably lads who are listening to this, you know, in that position. I know I've talked
And
to.
there's probably gearheads listening to this going, you were addicted to weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ever suck dick for crack, motherfucker? You don't know nothing. You ever fucking suck a dick for crack? Oh, poor chef.
Never got
Poor
bummed.
chef,
By
never 2 hours
sucking
away
another
from a
man.
fucking split.
Yeah. Fuck's sake. Have you? But it's fucking, it's like, it's a slippery slope and it's fucking scary, you know.
Yeah.
And these things can control your life.
Another advice for me was actual faff, like just fucking off and not doing anything.
What you
I
mean? That
love,
was an actual.
like, yeah, well, I kind of, I not silly way to say it, is addicted to doing nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I finished work, I was working in a very busy restaurant, and I was the head chef. I was making everything happen. And then when I wasn't in work, I was like, right, no, I've done my fucking bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I did get addicted to not getting up and being productive with my life, and not getting up in the morning time, and not, being the best me that I could be outside, because I would love to just sit down and play the Xbox and do literally nothing else when I wasn't in work.
Yeah, yeah. But it's the
And that
same.
is, in a way, a kind of an addiction.
But I know, but it is like, maybe it's not an addiction because it's like an addiction would be a
Not like a chemical addiction, obviously. It's like,
No,
it's
but
a
it's
really,
the
really,
same
really, really, really
pattern.
bad habit.
It's a pattern, man. It's a pattern. It's the cue behavior reward. That cue behavior reward. It's the same fucking thing. It's called a habit loop. So it's like you come home and it's like your thing would be come home, I'm tired. You probably, if you like, whenever I would go through periods with fucking playing computer games, you'd think about a game and she's like, I'd fucking love to have a good game of that now. Do you know what I mean? And you get the craving for it and you do it and you repeat. Or on your days off, it's like it's the same pattern. Your brain is wired to do certain behaviors over and over and over again. The only thing that you can do is change the behavior. You know what I mean? And make a conscious decision. The other big part of what we're talking about here. So I've already talked about my own fucking shit. Peter's talked about his. We talked about habits and the habit loop. You can't break a habit, but you can change a habit. The other thing.
Can you change a habit to, like, the habit not giving into the habit? Does that make sense?
This takes me on to the next part. So
I'm not
willpower.
talking about like OCD, like, but you're saying
Yeah,
you literally you can't break a habit, but
yeah.
I don't have a habit of getting up and smoking weed anymore.
Yeah, totally. So you have willpower and you have environment. Willpower and environment are massive. So the reason that you probably don't get up and smoke that spliff anymore, obviously, as we grow as human beings, things change. Your environment changes. Like, your home situation is potentially different, your work situation is different, and the people you surround yourself by are different. And the direction that you're going in your life is different. So therefore your behavior is going to change as a result of that. If you stop doing fucking Chef Fit tomorrow, cancel the gym membership, fucking threw away your bike, threw away the Lycra, and you started working fucking 70, 80 hours a week again, I would say you'd run a fucking good chance of falling back into that. Maybe you wouldn't, maybe you would, but your brain will always have that deep, like, it's like it's a wire that's been laid down, and it might be at the forefront of your mind, but it's buried back there somewhere and it lies dormant. Same thing with me, man. Gave up smoking for 6 months to a year. As soon as I let it back in to a certain extent, then I'm back on it. And now it's like creeps back in and it's 100%. So environment and willpower are massive. So when it comes to habits, it's like we got to understand that our brains don't differentiate between what's good and what's bad. Do you know what I mean? They'll just do something automatically to make things easy. So they'll make behavior automatic for you. So like for you, moving every day is slowly starting to become a regular occurrence. It's automatic. Whereas at the start, that was probably like a fucking mountain to climb. Now that's kind of getting easier. Why? Because your brain is trying to put things on autopilot. It's trying to make things automatic. But it can also do that with negative behavior. If you fucking smoke weed like we did every single night, your brain starts to put that on autopilot. So now you don't even think about it. Your brain just goes to that thing. So your brain doesn't know what's good and bad. So the only thing that can differentiate that is you, your conscious thought, your willpower. So we have tremendous power in our lives, and we can create our own realities, and we can create our own sets of habits if we're deliberate and intentional with them. If I say to myself that I'm going to fucking like break I'm going to change this habit around weed, and I'm going to do this because it's going to make my life better, that's me exerting willpower on the situation. And I'm going to change my environment based on that decision. So like if I say I'm not going to do this anymore, now my next step is I'm going to shift my environment. So I'm probably not calling my stoner mates and going, do you want to come around? Do you know what I mean? Whereas I was probably doing that before and not even thinking about it. Like I've thrown out all my weed paraphernalia. So that's gone. The grinders are gone. The skins are gone. Like that's me shifting, making a willpower based decision, a conscious decision and choice, and then changing my environment so that choice becomes easier over time. Do it enough then, and then the good behavior becomes automatic and the bad behavior starts to lie dormant in the back.
Yeah, if you haven't got it, you're not going to smoke it. It's a great way to start.
There you go. There you go. It's like, don't go fucking shopping if you're hungry. You know? Go shopping when you're starving hungry, chances are you're grabbing you go down that aisle in Aldi with all the fucking chocolate. Your game over, son. It's all over. You know, go to the shop when you're not hungry and you won't buy shit. Like it's very, very simple. Don't put yourself around it and you won't be around it. Or sorry, don't put yourself around it and you won't have it. Yeah. And I think willpower is a massive thing to understand here. And it's not just, you can't just depend on, I'm not talking about willpower as in just going, well, I'm not fucking doing it anymore. That's it. It's like guys going, I've had enough of feeling like shit, so I'm going to start exercising. So I'm going to try a diet and join the gym. But you've no real plan of action in place. So you just do it for a week and you stop. Why? Because you've gone at it with the surface. You've just gone, I'm going to do this. What I mean by willpower is be conscious of what habits you're trying to break and be conscious of what habits you're trying to build. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by willpower. So, for example, we have Keystone Habits and we have Hexstone Habits. For you before, your Hexstone habit was smoking spliffs. Your Keystone habit is exercise. So you've changed your lifestyle in a way where everything that you do now is based around Keystone Habits. You're a very active person. So you exercise regularly and you have your nutrition on point. You've built habits around exercise and nutrition. Therefore, you're more productive, you're more energetic, you're more motivated, you get more shit done, you're happier in your life. That requires willpower to go, I'm going to create this habit here. And this habit's going to lead to a load of good shit happening off the back of that. Hexstones work the same, but opposite. Hexstone is, I smoke weed every day. Say again?
Negative habits.
Exactly. Negative habit. It's a destructive behavior. Hexstone, I drink booze every single night. As a result of drinking booze every single night, my sleep is affected. I wake up lethargic. I've also got excess calories in my body. So therefore I put on weight. I'm nowhere near as fucking motivated as I should be. That leads to less confidence, less self-esteem, and less productivity. X result is I'm very unhappy in my life. All stemmed from the fact that you've got a habit built around boozing. So remove the booze and start replacing that with exercise and nutrition and you change your life.
Yeah.
45% of your day is OBG's gone. 45% of your day is habit. It's automatic. So start changing what you do automatically by exerting willpower and going, this is the set of cards that I have. I'm not happy with this set of cards. I'm going to fucking swap this 2 out for a queen. I'm going to swap this 4 out for a jack. Boom. There we go. It's like, what set of cards are you playing with right now? Chances are you're playing with a shitty set of cards. So you need to start fucking making that conscious decision to go, I want to flush. I want the royal flush, as opposed to, you know, a 2, a 4, and a 6. And your bad habits are your 2, your 4, and your 6. And your good habits are your fucking ace, jack, queen, and king. You know, like that's the example. I suppose the other thing about this is, like, it depends what you want in your life at the same time. Depends what you want. I assume anyone listening to this wants to get their shit together. I assume that anyone listening to this wants to fucking be healthier and be happier. So everything I'm telling you to do right now is based in the fact that you want to improve your life. I have plenty of friends that if I'll probably tell friends like, yeah, man, like I'm not smoking anymore. You know, I'm not doing it anymore. And they'll probably laugh and go, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? This isn't for them. You know, this is,
Guess what? Guess what as well, chefs? If you smoke a lot of weed and suffer with anxiety, you better believe that them two are holding hands. The reason I stopped was, I said this off cam earlier on, was that I was getting anxious from smoking, and that's why I just stopped. And you know, I didn't like, I just gave up cold turkey. Didn't have any problems giving it up or that, but once I knew why I was giving it up, I gave it up straight away.
Totally.
And there could be a lot of chefs out there that are suffering with anxiety that are stoners, and you will find, you know, they think that helps them with their anxiety to calm them down.
Yeah.
But like, if you just had a non-psychoactive CBD oil instead, a couple of drops of that rather than smoking a load of weed, that would sort your anxiety out a lot better. You know what I mean?
That's the other thing with destructive behaviors. It's like it's a vicious circle. You feel shit, therefore you go to that thing. You roll the
in
joint.
case any chefs out there just think that is, oh, it's not an addiction. It's, you know, it's to keep the anxiety in check. You know, and it's not what it's doing. You know,
it's bollocks. You know what I mean? It's bollocks. It's bollocks because I know I have evidence to show that it's bollocks. The amount of lads that have stepped into Chef Fit already, you know, who are fucking drinking like a cunt every night, you know, or smoking fucking loads of weed, or smoking fucking 20 or 30 cigarettes a day. Lads in the group who, you know, were spending a lot of money on cocaine every week, like multiple 3 or 4 days a week on the bag in work. You know what I mean? Like, when you're at that fucking level, you can say whatever the fuck you want. But the reality is, it's a destructive behavior. You could either face it or you don't face it, you know? But if you don't face it, somewhere along the line, you are going to end up in a fucking dark spot. You're going to end up in a dark spot and you're going to be broke.
Yeah.
That shit drains your fucking, drains the cash that you have as well. So, like, it really comes down to the destructive behavior. It'll lie to you. You'll be addicted to something and you'll think that it's good when it's not good. It's not good, you know? And as he said there, it's like, for me, I lied to myself all the time with weed. It's fine. It's just grand for tonight. You know, I'll just be the one tonight and fucking, I'll leave it tomorrow. What happens tomorrow? I get the exact same feeling when I finish work.
Exact same excuses.
Exact same fucking excuse. And then you just keep perpetuating and perpetuating. I wouldn't be telling you this if I was fucking you know what I mean? If I wasn't doing it myself and I hadn't gone through that myself. So be real with yourself. You know what I mean? Be real, be honest. Look at yourself in the fucking mirror and identify what's going wrong and what needs to be fixed. And if you can do that, Chef, things will genuinely start changing for you. So yeah.
Also subscribe to Chef Fit on YouTube and Podbean.
That's how we're fucking rolling. 5-star review on iTunes as well, if you're listening to us on there. And with that in mind, that is our episode number 18 of the Chef Fit podcast, or the Jeff Fit podcast.
The Jeff Fit podcast.
That's it, pal. I've been Cam. This lad's been fucking POBG. We're out of this bitch.
Peace.
Stay safe, Peter. Catch you later, pal. Okay.
Nice one, bro.